Hi, my name is Esme,
And this is Lemar.
and this is
Vent Away.
All right.
Hi, everyone.
First and foremost, we would like to announce first that our women's episode will be postponed until further notice, and I hope you guys are still here to listen to it, but it's going to be great.
We may sound really excited right now, but our brain is kind of half dead.
We are college students, and we do have other work besides our podcast, but we are gladly here making content for you, and we hope you enjoy it.
And we're not being forced, by the way. We love doing it, but we're just tired
Yeah,
today.
just today's a bit tired, but again, we enjoy making this content. We love it. It's so fun for us, and we can't wait to make more content for you. And on the note of content, we have decided that for every month, we are going to go through the monthly awarenesses or, kind of things that are prominent during the months and make episodes on them to spread awareness and to kind of, talk about the important things that are being celebrated during this month. And now that we are in May, we are in Mental Health Awareness Month. And so today's episode will be dedicated to mental health.
We're so excited to talk about this because this is kind of a heavy episode. And, there's a lot of things, there's a lot of layers to talk about with mental health, how it applies to genders, and how it can inflict someone,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, today's episode is going to be a little more heavy, like Lemar said. It's just, we felt like it was a very important topic to bring up, and when better to do it than in Mental Health Awareness Month. If you read our description, there is a crisis hotline there. If you or a loved one or someone you care about feels like you need it, we will provide resources for that. So for today's episode, we just kind of wanted to go into that. And the first aspect of mental health that we'll be discussing is the past perceptions of mental health. It's a rough history because back then it wasn't really something you thought about, because it was more of the worry of what's wrong with you physically, and no one ever really gave that significance to your mental health,
Mm-hmm.
Like it was this kind of stigma of you feel like you need mental health, you're automatically considered like a crazy person. Like there's this whole idea of back in the day, people with simple things like ADHD or simple as anxiety and depression were put in the same category as people with schizophrenia or dissociative disorder. It's kind of almost incredible to think about it, that we've discovered so much, because in the past, you read about stuff in the past of mental health, and it wasn't important. It wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
It really wasn't.
Yeah, and you know that when you go to a therapist or something like that, people automatically think you're
Mm-hmm.
crazy. You're psychologically incapacitated,
Right.
That's what they thought it was back then. And of course, mental health has the word mental in it, so people thought,
Yeah,
crazy.
they associate the word mental with crazy. And it was to the point where even things that weren't psychological issues were being considered psychological issues, you know? I
Mm-hmm.
remember there was a point
Yeah.
where they were like, "Oh, a woman who has too many opinions, she's some kind of mentally ill, because why does she not behave like a lady?"
Or why doesn't she just shut her
Uh-huh.
mouth, like a woman would. I see this on social media all the time. When a woman speaks out about her opinions or about what she feels like, she gets backlash, because why is a woman acting like this? It's crazy.
Right. Yeah, and it's to kind of think about the past of mental health. It's just it for me, I'm a psychology major, so mental health obviously is a very, 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 very big part of my area of study. So they'll teach us about stuff like that, the past of getting psychological help, and you also have to remember the treatments of back then, they were awful. We're
Mm-hmm.
talking electroshock therapy and like to an extreme,
Mm-hmm.
like lobotomies and stuff like that,
Uh-huh.
which they were very painful and very just not really doing anything. They weren't helping the person.
And it's kind of crazy because even with all of the advocacy and all of, the medication every and all of like the promotion with mental health now, it's still being undermined and undervalued in today's society. It's kind of crazy that people still don't take it seriously enough, especially within our culture, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, cuz like for example, like in the Latino culture, a lot of people don't necessarily believe in getting psychological help because there's still that big stigma of if you need
Mm-hmm.
psychological help, it's because you're crazy.
And with mine as well, it's mental illnesses like depression and
Mm-hmm.
anxiety. That's not in their terminology.
No.
It's I'm not saying this is for for everyone, and for this I'm not generalizing this towards my entire race. Towards my personal experiences, it's like they don't think of it as something that should be taken seriously. Like depression and anxiety do not are not in their vocabulary.
No.
They think it's a joke, it's a hoax, everything like
Yeah,
that, you
like
know.
it's like those moments
And
where, like in depression, the moments when you feel like you can't get out of bed, you just don't want to do anything. To them, it's not
mhm,
registering as I'm having a bad day. To them, it could be registering
mhm.
as you're just being lazy and you don't want to get up.
And those medication, they don't believe in
No,
that.
they don't.
The medication people take, in fact, at some point they're I've heard this somewhere. The medication's just another way of other people earning
Yeah.
money. So they're saying like, "Oh, doctors profit from this."
Yeah, like they're giving you medication that you don't need to make a bigger profit.
Mhm.
And yeah, cuz I feel like that's seen in a lot of minority cultures, like more or less, where it's just we've been given this ideal of, not necessarily an ideal, but this like stereotype kind of mental health is not as big as a deal as you make it seem, kind of, if that makes sense, where it's like, oh, everyone wants to talk about mental health, it's just you guys being sensitive, or it's just you guys being weak. And I've heard people say stuff like that, where they're just like, mental health, yeah, mental health makes you, it's just making you weak, it's just you being weak. In an aspect of it, I do feel like, yeah, maybe it looks like people now are being more sensitive, but in a certain perspective, when you look at it, it's more of like people are being more open to the idea that you can have a mental illness, that you can have
Mhm.
like a mental disorder. There could be something wrong with you, and
Mhm.
that we are kind of normalizing it more so that people feel like I'm not the only one, you know? And we've
Mhm.
become more open to the idea of being more open with our mental health. Like nowadays, yeah, like nowadays you can go, and meet people who are in the same boat as you, who are feeling the same as you, and you can help each other out.
To people that think of it as a joke, it's all fun and games until something actually happens to one of your family members or one of the people that you love, one of the people that you love, to the point where they want to take their own lives. Is it gonna be a joke after,
Mhm.
People not believing in it, especially when it's your own family, it only makes it worse.
Yeah.
It only makes their condition worse.
Yeah.
And at some point, it can even lead to suicide.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Unfortunately, it's stuff that I have seen like in real life, like it's not me saying like, oh, I've seen this on TV or I've seen this on the internet. I've seen people, who have just had really big declines because they felt like no one believed them. They felt like they were alone. And I feel like that's one of the
Mm-hmm.
major parts of the whole mental illness and mental health topic is that
Mm-hmm.
loneliness. I feel like it plays such a big
Mm-hmm.
part in why a lot of people have the decline they do. It's just,
Mm-hmm.
there's this feeling of loneliness. You're the like it
Mm-hmm.
almost feels like you're the only one struggling with it because no one else wants
Mm-hmm.
to like help you.
Yeah, and for some people, not even their own family can help them. if you feel, secluded from everyone else and you're not getting that help, it could lead to
Mhm.
this. It could lead to worse effects.
Yeah, and then and like right now that we just had this like whole thing with the pandemic, we were able to see, the big decline in mental health in a lot of, especially people like our age,
Oh yeah.
where we were
Mhm.
losing important things for us, for our age. Like for example, like
Mhm.
prom, seeing our friends, just being at school with our friends, being able to go out freely without feeling, like we were in some kind of biological danger at all times. And then,
Yeah.
it sucks for those who were in homes that of people who don't believe in stuff like that. Because you can't just go up to like your parent and be like, I have depression, and then be like, oh my God, let's get you help. For some people, it isn't as simple as that.
But I'm also glad that there are parents and family members around the world that actually do take it
Mm-hmm.
seriously and give their children the proper help that they need and are actually supportive of their mental illness and, give them every single resource that they need to get
Yeah.
better. There are people like that. And, it's outnumbering the people that actually don't care about mental health.
Mm-hmm.
In today's age, at least, there is still a lot of work that needs to be
Yeah.
done. That's why, the topic of mental health became an awareness month, in May,
Mm-hmm.
because, like in the name, it's Mental Health Awareness Month. We need to spread the word about mental health and mental illnesses
Yeah.
to the people that are either oblivious or ignorant to the topic, as the subject.
Right. Because I feel like, there's so many people out there who are just, they're waiting for, that one person to just help them, to be there for them. I'm blessed to say, that I have people in my life that I feel like I've always been able to go to. And when it comes to my mental health. And I got to say, that it makes a difference. It truly does. And to people listening, you can be that friend, that companion, that person, to just ask, just be there for someone, because at the end of the day, that could be the one small thing that could save a person, that could just kind of help them get out of their hole, and to feel, just
Yeah.
to not feel so alone. It's like I was saying, it's just that one little thing, that sometimes it just kind of can bring you out of what you're feeling. And it's just
Mhm.
the idea of knowing that you have someone, and that you can rely on someone, that there's someone you can go to. I feel like that makes a huge difference for a lot of people.
And of course, there are, gender norms that associate with mental illnesses and mental health.
Yeah.
Like, for example, can a man cry and become emotional or emotionally open towards someone?
It's definitely is like a big thing in a lot of cultures. For example, like I feel like
Mhm.
in the very like machista culture of the Latino community, there has always been this idea of, if you're a man, you don't cry. Like
Mhm.
and I remember, I used to even know people who would use that like almost as an insult, where they'd be like, oh, like if they became
Oh
too
yeah. Mhm.
emotional, like, oh, you're acting like a woman, like an emotional woman. It's sad to hear that, because you know that mean, for example, mothers raising their young boys, right? They're raising them to not cry and to not feel these emotions, so when they get older, they don't know how to process these emotions. When they feel like crying, they don't know what to do, because all their life they felt like they can't.
All of what they're feeling is gonna get bottled up, and then one day they're just gonna explode,
Mm-hmm.
and they're gonna lose it.
Yeah, and they're gonna keep all of that bottled up inside of them, and then they're gonna start projecting that onto other people one day. This could come
Mhm.
through being aggressive, being just problematic, being you know all these kinds of different negative things. And then what happens when those men have their own sons or their own kids.
Mhm.
they're gonna put these things towards
Yeah.
their kids too. And then now we created this cycle, this generational cycle of men don't cry.
And that perception from a child to a grown up, that they carry that with them.
Yeah, they do.
So, especially today's society, in a community where we're still evolving, we're still developing in terms of, our values and beliefs, because you know what? There isn't really like a fixed perception anymore.
Right.
We're building on what we already have. There really isn't like a fixed or a traditional way of thinking.
Right.
And like you said, that's also part of being aggressive towards other people, because they're gonna push towards what they believe in.
Mm-hmm. They're gonna start projecting their own bottled up emotions onto everyone else. That's
Mm-hmm.
how they're gonna grow up. That's how they're gonna treat, their future spouses, their kids, every
Mm-hmm.
relationship they try to
Mm-hmm.
have. This, and these emotions are gonna be there because to them they're the man. There's because there's always that whole idea of you're the man of the house. Like you can't
I'll be the man. Dun, 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 dun.
like that idea of you're the man in the house, so you have to look strong at all times for your family.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And the idea of the man is the strong one and the woman is the one who feels the emotion. She's the one who gets to cry. She's the one who this and that.
So our final topic is, how is mental health being seen in today's age, and what can we do about it as 20-year-olds?
Well, I think one of the big things that we need to, pay a lot of attention to now in modern day, in the modern perception of mental health is, that lack of, not necessarily lack of, that's not the right word, but the feeling of not being alone. Now we have a lot of various different, resources we can go to. We can go to therapy. We can simply just talk to someone, that we trust with our emotions. Now, there's so many different things you can do. You can do art, you can journal, you can just type out your feelings when you're feeling overwhelmed. There's a lot of things you can do.
Mm-hmm.
But I think one of the big things about mental health today is just to not keep things bottled up, because I feel like
Yeah.
sometimes we want to prioritize everything else in our lives over our mental health. Yeah.
And you don't realize it's slowly taking
Yeah,
over
and
you.
it's slowly just kind of eating at you and just deteriorating your mental health.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think,
Yeah.
as especially people our age, that we're still kind of learning to manage our adult emotions, just to
Mm-hmm.
really take the time to take care of ourselves and our mental health.
Yeah. And I can only imagine the amount of resources we'll have 5, 10, 20 years from now, when we're old. And for me, and if I have any kids of my own in the future, I really want them to have the most resources
Mm-hmm.
in life. And in any case I have kids, I really want them to thrive and to have the help they need in case they have mental illnesses of their
Mm-hmm.
own. And I know I'm speaking for the both of us, to spread the word of mental health in a positive way, not to undermine it or not to devalue it in a way,
Right.
And this podcast is a testament.
Yeah, like for example, for us, this podcast is our way of spreading our own version of, our positivity, just to do something good for ourselves and, make content for other people to listen to see that, okay, some of the experiences I had are similar to theirs, stuff of that sort. It's just we need to
Mm-hmm.
help each other out nowadays, spread more positivity than the negativity, because at the end of the day,
Yeah.
if we want a more positive life, we have to start with spreading that ourselves.
Instead of pushing against it, we should actually embrace it.
Yeah, just allow people to feel, their feelings they're having,
Mm-hmm.
and to not restrict someone from wanting to, if a person needs to cry,
To
go ahead and
cry,
cry.
yeah.
It's okay. It's okay to have,
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna have good days and you're gonna have bad days, and it's up to us, and to find our ways to help ourselves, to not just kind of put that to the side and be like, I'll deal with that later, you know, to
Mm-hmm.
find your way to help yourself, help your mental health, just like you would, look for something to help your physical health. You have to look for something to help your mental
Mm-hmm.
health as well. To kind of conclude our episode, we just kind of want to reiterate what we had mentioned before. In our description for this podcast, there is a crisis counselor hotline, and we also linked the number to the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. And if you feel like you're in any kind of life-threatening danger, or to yourself or because of someone else, please just immediately call 911. But we do want to just reiterate that those resources will be in our description.
And last but not least, happy Mother's Day to every single mother out there.
Yeah, we just wanted to give a very special thanks to not just the mothers, like the biological mothers, but to those who have been, surrogate mothers and just, guardians to children. Just thank you,
And
and
mother
any kind of
figures.
mother figure. We just want to give you a very special thank you and a shout out on this week of Mother's Day, whether you celebrate it May 10th or on Sunday. We just want to give you a very, very special shout out.
So I'm wondering, what is the next episode?
Well, our next episode is going to kind of be an opposing end to today's episode. Our next episode is titled Dear Future Me, where we'll be discussing our past experiences, our present, and our future. Kind of talking to our future selves, almost like a little diary of a sort. So, we hope to see you next episode, and we hope you have a great day.
And we also hope to see you 20 years from now when we'll read about or listen about this that episode, just to kind of be like, oh wow, I can't believe I said that.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to our podcast, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.